She was found in her own home, in a quiet senior community in Texas. At first, it looked like a natural death. No forced entry, no obvious struggle, just silence. Then someone noticed something small. Jewelry that was always there was suddenly missing. And it was not just one woman. It was happening again and again. For months, families asked the same question. How does someone die safely at home and still get robbed? And who could walk in without raising alarm? Thi Harris was 81 years old. She lived in an apartment at a senior living community in Plano, Texas. Friends and family described a woman who valued routine. A familiar space, a predictable day. Like many seniors, she depended on her community. People came and went. Staff, maintenance, healthcare workers, neighbors checking in. It was a place designed to feel secure. A place where older residents could live with dignity. And where a knock on the door usually meant help, not danger. In March 2018, Thi Harris was found dead. Authorities initially considered the possibility of a natural cause. She was elderly. There was no sign of a break-in. But something did not fit. Valuables were missing, items that mattered, especially jewelry. Investigators in Dallas and Collin counties had been seeing a pattern. Elderly women in retirement communities, found deceased in their homes, often first treated as routine deaths. And questions, and missing property. It was quiet, it was targeted, and it blended into the normal reality of aging. Until one woman survived. On a day in March 2018, 91-year-old Mary Bartel was attacked in her home. But she did not die. She lived long enough to call for help. And she gave investigators something they had not had before. A living witness, a description, a direction to look. This is where everything began to change. Police responded quickly. They began linking reports across communities, retirement apartments, senior living centers, areas where strangers could move without drawing attention. Then they focused on a suspect, Billy Chemirmir, a former healthcare worker from Kenya living in Texas. Investigators say Chemirmir had a method. According to court records, he gained access by appearing legitimate, like someone who belonged there. A maintenance worker, a caregiver, a helpful presence in a place built on trust. And there were details that kept repeating. First, the missing jewelry, not random theft. Specific items, taken quickly. Second, the speed. Authorities alleged that valuables were sold within hours. Pawn shops became part of the timeline. Receipts, transactions. A trail that did not match a natural death. But this detail would later become crucial. Surveillance footage. Investigators reviewed video from Walmart. They said it showed Chemirmir near seniors on the day they later died, including Thi Harris. Not just passing by, lingering, watching, selecting. A case that had once looked like isolated tragedies began to look like something else entirely. A series, a pattern, and a man moving through it. Billy Chemirmir was in his mid-40s during the crimes investigators tied to him. He had worked in healthcare, and prosecutors said that background mattered. He understood senior routines. He understood access. He understood what would not raise suspicion. In court, the state presented him as someone who targeted vulnerable women, living alone, not because of personal conflict, but because they were easy to approach and easier to exploit. Authorities publicly connected him to a wide number of deaths across Dallas and Collin counties. Between 2016 and 2018, at least 24 elderly women were considered suspected victims by investigators. In the courtroom, prosecutors focused on what they could prove, beyond a reasonable doubt, one case at a time. For Thi Harris, the prosecution built a factual chain. A timeline, surveillance footage placing Chemirmir in proximity, evidence of stolen property moving rapidly into pawn transactions, and a broader pattern that made the natural death explanation harder to accept. Chemirmir was tried for capital murder. His first trial ended in a mistrial, with the jury deadlocked 11-1. Prosecutors tried the case again. In the second trial, the jury returned a guilty verdict quickly. Deliberations lasted just 37 minutes. Chemirmir was convicted of capital murder in the death of Thi Harris, and he was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Prosecutors had planned further trials connected to the other suspected victims, but that never happened. Chemirmir was killed by fellow inmates in prison before he could face trial in the remaining cases. And with him, many questions were left unanswered. This case left a particular kind of fear behind. Not fear of dark alleys, but fear of ordinary spaces. A hallway, a polite knock, a stranger who seems official. It also left a lesson that families in these communities repeat quietly. Trust is necessary, but it can be exploited. And sometimes the most dangerous person is the one who looks like they belong. Follow for more real crime stories.